With the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on the Chinese economy, banks do not give loans to the developers. Funds do not flow to real estate anymore.
China is at it again with severe economic problems. The news has not been good in recent weeks for this great country. According to a recent report from London-based consulting firm Capital Economics, the economy has been under pressure so far this year, and it does not appear to be getting any better. Growth has stalled, and the housing market is collapsing, and young unemployment is rising. Companies are even struggling with recurring supply chain headaches. What has happened to the country that had the world's second biggest economy? Why are they grappling with the impact of severe drought? Recent signals have revealed that the Chinese economy may already be in a recession because the country is being hit by record-high inflation, trillions of dollars disappearing overnight, layoffs, and fraudulent activity, to mention a few. Worse enough, its real estate sector is suffering the consequences of too much debt. However, the situation is being made much worse by Beijing's adherence to a rigid zero-COVID policy, and there is no sign that it will change this year. What will be the result if things continue to go this way? Well, indeed, the Chinese Socialist Coalition has endeavored to control the disaster, but the reality is that people have already been aware of what is happening. That brings us to the matter of the day. In this video, we're going to explain China's economic crisis and how it has become a major problem that haunts the country. So watch the video to the end and get ready to be inspired. Now, within recent weeks, 8 megacities have gone into full or partial lockdowns. These vital centers of manufacturing and transport are home to over 127 million people. As a matter of fact, about 75 cities have been closed off since late August, affecting more than 313 million residents, which is definitely not going well. Goldman Sachs estimated that cities impacted by lockdowns account for 35% of China's GDP. I'm sure you know about China's rail project. In fact, this has really affected the country's economy. In 2008, China originally left on a high-speed rail project, and they ended the first project in 2009. By then, the organization's most significant distance, HighSpeed Rail Administration, covered the 968 kilometers between Wuhan and Guangzhou. This area covered has a typical speed of 350 kilometers each hour. Remember, China used to be an enormous exchange partner, but as things went on, the worldwide market and the exchange projects took an unpleasant turn for China. These issues left many individuals working in imports and exports to become jobless. Instead of figuring out the exact method to disperse government improvement packages, the government of China decided it was best for them to set off the high-speed train project. This framework project filled in as Chinese Communist Party's efficient reaction to the worldwide financial crisis. While we have a substantial amount of double-digit stoppages, they are still insignificant reduction signs. During the 2008 downturn, there is a slowness in U.S. home sales, and it was down by 50% yearly. Recently, leaks have shown that the CCP is controlling Chinese financial data. Behind the fabricated numbers, the whole Chinese banking system is self-destructing. 6 unknown Chinese bank executives indicated that government-owned banks have been giving out loans freely. As if that's not enough, the public government-owned banks also give out loans with a similar interest rate to the bank's deposits. This whole declination does not just come all at once. It had started long ago. No one thought it would hit the country this hard, but it can only get crazier. Let's talk about the COVID implication. We're now over 2 years into the pandemic. Still, Beijing aims to stick to its revolutionary approach to the virus with mandatory mass testing, forced quarantines, and even total lockdowns. While the policy was successful in the early stage of the pandemic, the country managed to keep the virus at bay in 2020 and 2021 and starve off many deaths. Many other countries suffered while building a quick recovery following a record contraction in GDP. XI even said that China's success in containing the virus was proof of the Communist Party's superiority over Western democracy. He said this at a ceremony in 2020. However, the premature declaration of victory has returned to haunt him, as the highly transmissible Omicron variant makes the zero COVID policy ineffective. While the capital of China, Beijing, seems unwavering on its zero COVID strategy, the government has rolled out numerous measures to boost the flagging economy, unveiling a $146 billion last month to ease power shortages and improve infrastructure. Although the government is trying to achieve the best possible outcome for economic growth and jobs while sticking to zero COVID, it will be implicated to balance the two goals. This is why recent data suggest the Chinese economy could be headed for another dismal performance in the third quarter. The country's GDP only expanded by 0.4% in the second quarter from a year earlier. But the size of China's economy, which accounts for almost 1/5 of global GDP, means a major slowdown could still seriously affect global growth. The global impact is mostly due to deficient growth from China. It's not so much a financial impact, Garcia Herrero told Al Jazeera. He continued, of course, if Chinese banks finally can't swallow this shock and their non-performing loans increase massively, and there's a financial crisis in China, which I don't think will happen immediately, it will be more like Japan in the 80s and 90s. So, saddled with bad loans, no credit, the economy doing very poorly, deflation, this is, I think, the scenario. So, not an immediate layman-type event. This is why the government of China needs to act fast. According to analysts, even if China's economy is unlikely to experience an economic meltdown of that severity, there is still a high chance of them having a protracted slump that drags on global growth in the coming years. Tenio's Will Do said that Chinese policymakers are not readily available in more capitalistic countries to avert a full-blown financial crisis. Chinese leaders have much greater control over the financial system and the real economy than U.S. policymakers did in 2008. So they have the tools to starve off an acute crisis, he said, and to starve off the financial contagion and a complete collapse in credit flows because they can order the banks to lend. They can work outside the legal bankruptcy system to keep everyone liquid and avoid disorderly default chains. Talking about Chinese goods, which have become cheaper for the West. This forces China's surrounding countries to reduce the prices of their goods as well. The yuan crisis has dragged down other export-driven countries, thus increasing the risk of a default for BRI loans. This is China's first overseas debt crisis. We know that the country's institutional loans have risen by more than 3 times in the past 2 years, and numerous countries have already been rated as junk. Countries like Pakistan, Argentina, Belarus, Egypt, Mongolia, Nigeria, Turkey, Ukraine, and Sri Lanka. The problem is that China isn't using its cash to pay for BRI lending, but if the country had done that, it would have been able to withstand the pain. However, most of this lending was from China borrowing money from others. This means that countries like the U.S. were lending money to China so that China could lend the money to other surrounding countries. This isn't a sensible thing to hear from a great country like China. It is indeed ridiculous, and this will fall flat on China's face soon. The drought keeps worsening. China is in a complicated situation economically. We can expect the COVID crisis and the drought to affect China's economy negatively. We can only hope there won't be a recession. With China being the world's manufacturing powerhouse, no one is prepared for what's coming. We'll see how it goes in the long run. Well, that's it for today, guys. If you enjoyed the video, do well by subscribing to this channel and give this video a like. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.